Alright, texture based upon filters. I use this all the time. I love this thing. If you had a chance to play with any of the filters within Photoshop, you'll find out this is a pretty, you'll be using it all the time. Trust me. So go layers, new layer, and then drop this down to overlay and choose 50% fill gray. Gray can be actually turned to anything. So I'm going to turn this off for a second. And I'm going to go filter, sketch, halftone pattern. So it works with anything really. As far as all these effects can all be turned into something based upon gray. Now, the only bad thing is it feeds with these colors right here, so I'm going to choose black and white values. So there we go. Halftone patterns, all these now become a texture. And I just showed you in the past videos that all those textures can be used on any kind of layer using any kind of multiply, divide, whatever. But halftone pattern's a little different, and I like to cover it real quick. So if I wanted something a little odd, let's say, oh yeah, and this really hurts the eyes, right? So if you're staring right at the video, it's probably a lot of pain. But right here, I'm going to just say OK to this halftone pattern. I'm going to make it huge. And keep in mind, there's line patterns that are equally annoying to watch and look at. And there's circle patterns, which are kind of strange. But dot is what I'm used to. And I'm going to use dot. Hit OK. So this is it. And if I turn this to normal, it stays the same. Let's say I take this background, for instance, and I fill it with black. I go up here, I take this one, and if I take the move tool and make sure show transformation controls is on, I can lower this down if I wanted to. What if this faded into this? Well, that's the whole purpose of this lesson, is to show you not only filters can be changed to textures, but I also want to compact some other stuff in there like layer masks. Let's take this, hold command over and click in this area. And then click this button. Okay, let's zoom up this button right here. What that's going to do is make a layer mask. And a layer mask is just a mask over the top. What you see is black is invisible, and what you see is white is purely visible. And these are two different documents. Think of it that way. And if you don't know that, look at the top as I switch these between the two. This one says layer mask, and this one says RGB. So be on layer mask. So if black means invisible and white means visible, I can have some fun with that. I can go into the gradient tool and say, okay, black is invisible, white is visible. Let's choose a gradient and just hold shift, and there we go. So that's a nice way to fade any kind of texture with another texture based upon a layer mask. All right, now it gets a little bit better because, you know, anything can become a layer mask. Let's take this for example. If I have a round circle and I go in here, I'm using the marquee selection to move this around after I make it. And I fill this with a red, and now I know don't make it oversaturated red, make something like this. You have a variance between these two, so why not use that to your advantage? Use these colors when you're designing. Don't use these colors. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to fill this with red, and now I know that anything, as long as they're filled with a color in there, it'll work. But look at this. It doesn't, right? because this doesn't have any noise. So filter, noise, add noise. I just want it monochromic noise, and I want it based upon black and white values. There we go. Filter, noise, add noise. Now I got some noise in there, and noise can be other stuff. See, now it works. And it's still picking up color based upon my picks of color here. So I might have some red in there somewhere. So noise can become anything, and variations of noise can become anything. So let's take this for example. If I choose black and white and I go back into it after making it, you're going to find that it looks different every time, because the larger the noise, the larger the actual pattern that it produces. And if you want to see the real effect of this, it's because your resolution is so high. Let's say I make it 8.5 by 11 by 72. And I do that same trick. I take a circle and I go like this and I fill it with some color. And I go filter, noise, add noise. And then filter, artistic, color pencil. And I'll choose something else. I like this colored pencil look. Well, now I can see it a little bit better. And if I zoom in, you can definitely see it. But the reason you can see it so much is because I have a lower pixel ratio than this one. This one I see it, but I got to really zoom in to see it. Here's my halftone pattern. But that's how we use Photoshop to produce different kind of textures without going on the internet. We can use all the built-in textures right here in Photoshop. And that's how we use layer masks. So for instance, if I hold command and click over the top of this, remember black equals transparent. So I can go, if I wanted to, take the gradient tool, make the layer mask, and I could fade a couple of these in, and I can adjust that after the fact. And what I'm doing is I'm making a field where if I put anything right here, the eye is going to be drawn to it. Because I put noise, the noise starts fading in. This noise, people hate looking at this kind of noise, so it fades in. Now, whatever I put in here into the center, as far as text goes, your eye goes right to it. No matter if it's black, white, whatever you want to make it. White's a little stark, so I'm going to say, maybe you shouldn't use white for that. Maybe you should highlight it and go up here and grab a color that's near white. Like that, and you still have that same focus. And that's a cheap Arial font. Alright, so that's presenting depth and texture, all kinds of crazy stuff. And on to the next video.